All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a journey that is honestly completely unlike any other. We aren't just looking at dusty ancient geography here. We're essentially cracking open a cosmic travel guide hidden deep within the verses of the Mahabharata. This is a landscape where the physical world and the divine totally overlap. We're talking about a place where just stepping into a river or even having the wind blow some dust onto your skin can literally grant you eternal salvation. As you'll see, it is a massive, awe-inspiring, and honestly, sometimes pretty bloody map of the ancient Indian cosmos. Let's get into it.
So before we hit the road, we gotta define two absolutely fundamental concepts. First up is this idea of a tirtha. In the text, a tirtha is technically a sacred water ford, a crossing point, or a pilgrimage site. But it's really so much more than just a spot on a map. It's a literal bridge between the earthly realm and the divine. Second is merit. You can think of merit as a sort of spiritual bank account. Because, make no mistake, this wasn't some relaxing leisure vacation. Ancient pilgrims undertook these incredibly brutal journeys to earn cosmic merit. They were effectively paying their way toward salvation, wiping out their sins, and elevating their ancestors along the way. So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The ancient spiritual itinerary. 2. Kurukshetra, the sacred center. 3. The currency of merit. 4. Legends in the landscape. And finally, 5. The ultimate destinations.
Okay, let's kick things off with part 1, the ancient spiritual itinerary.
Now, as you can probably guess, extracting salvation from these sites wasn't exactly a walk in the park. You couldn't just show up and reap the rewards. The text lays out some incredibly demanding physical and mental prerequisites. Step 1, you have to subdue the senses. A pilgrim needs to be in a completely pious, laser-focused state of mind. Step 2, fasting and regulating your diet. And we're not just talking skipping lunch. Sometimes this meant fasting for days on end, or surviving entirely on a highly specific diet, like, get this, eating nothing but jujubes for 12 years at the asylum of Vashishta. Crazy, right? Step 3 is physically and spiritually cleansing the body by bathing in the sacred waters. And finally, step 4, actively worshiping the gods and the pitris, the ancestors. This whole process was basically a grueling, exhausting boot camp for the soul.
Moving right along to part 2, Kurukshetra, the sacred center.
This brings us to the main entry point of our journey, a place the text actually describes as the ultimate sacrificial altar of the gods. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this highly specific quote straight from the source material. The very dust of Kurukshetra, conveyed by the wind, leadeth a sinful man to a blessed course. Just take a second to think about the sheer concentrated holiness required for that to be true. The text explicitly tells us that you don't even have to physically bathe in the waters to be saved here. If the wind simply picks up the dirt from this region and blows it onto a sinful person, boom! That alone guarantees salvation. Even just desiring to go there mentally is enough to destroy all sins.
But here's the kicker. Kurukshetra isn't just some mystical idea floating around in the clouds. It's firmly rooted right here on physical Earth. The ancient texts give us exact geographic coordinates. Kurukshetra is located south of the Saraswati River and north of the Drishadwati River. So the text is taking these sweeping, epic cosmic myths and translating them into a bounded, tangible location that real historical people could actually walk to. It's just a brilliant blend of geography and theology.
All right, let's talk about the payoff in part 3, the currency of merit.
Once a pilgrim physically arrived at these locations, they basically entered into a highly specific spiritual economy. Every single action in this ancient world had an exact cosmic price in reward. The text literally, mathematically quantifies salvation. For instance, you bathe in Shalakini, your cosmic reward is the equivalent of performing 10 massive, epic horse sacrifices. If you feed just one single brahmana at the river Apaga, the spiritual multiplier is so astronomically high that it's equivalent to feeding 10 million brahmanas anywhere else. Fasting at the tirtha of Kapila, that earns you the merit of gifting 1,000 kine, or cows. The precision here is just absolutely astounding to me. They created an entire localized exchange rate for salvation. And hey, if you thought those multipliers were big, try 30 million. According to the text, there are exactly 30 million individual tirthos present inside a single well, the Sarakupa. The scale of that is absolutely mind-boggling. It shows us that in this mythology, physical space isn't really a limitation at all. An infinite, cosmic universe of spiritual power can be completely compressed into a single, ordinary-looking well.
Which brings us to part 4, Legends in the landscape.
You know, these landmarks didn't just pop up out of nowhere. They have some incredibly dark, surreal, and miraculous origin stories. Let's trace the staggering and honestly pretty bloody mythological origin of the Mahabharata lakes. First, the heroic Rama, completely fueled by wrath, exterminates the Kshatriya warriors. Second, he literally digs 5 lakes and fills them to the very brim with the blood of his victims. Third, he offers all this blood as oblations to the Pitris. And finally, the ancestors are so deeply gratified by this offering that they grant him boons, miraculously purifying these pools of blood into highly sacred, sin-cleansing tirthas. It's a wildly dramatic narrative arc showing how extreme violence was cosmically transformed into a site of ultimate purification.
And the surreal origins definitely don't stop there. Look at the Manusha Tirtha. The text casually mentions that this is the spot where a number of black antelopes, bleeding and afflicted by hunters' arrows, plunged into the waters and were magically transformed right then and there into human beings. It's just a quick anecdote, but it perfectly brings to life the bizarre, deeply magical reality of this ancient world. The land itself is alive. It's active and capable of spontaneous, radical transformation.
And this next story brilliantly illustrates the delicate balance of cosmic order. Take the legend of the Rishi Mankanaka. Step 1. He cuts his hand on a blade of grass, but instead of blood, vegetable juice flows from the wound. Step 2. He is so totally amazed by this miracle that he begins to dance. But his spiritual power is so immense that all mobile and immobile creatures in the entire universe are literally forced to dance along with him. The whole cosmos is thrown into chaos. Step 3. The gods panic, and the supreme god Mahadeva intervenes. Mahadeva presses his own thumb, and instead of juice, snow-white ash pours out. Humbled by a miracle far greater than his own, the Rishi stops dancing, falls to his knees, and universal order is finally restored. Basically, the ultimate cosmic mic drop.
Finally, we hit the climax of our journey in Part 5, the ultimate destinations. So after subduing the senses, calculating all that merit, and walking past lakes of transformed blood, we arrive at the absolute pinnacles of holiness. First up is Sannihati. This is the grand convergence. The text tells us that every single tirtha, river, lake, and sacred spring, both on earth and up in the firmament, physically comes together here month after month. It is the ultimate spiritual multiplier event. If you manage to bathe in the Saraswati here during a solar eclipse, your reward is equal to 100 horse sacrifices. A solar eclipse basically acts like a temporary hack in the spiritual economy, multiplying the merit to unimaginable heights. Now, let's see how all this builds to the final absolute rule of the text. On one side, we have the highly sacred Kurukshetra, the holy Saraswati River, and all other millions of tirthas combined. But eclipsing all of them is Prithudaka. The text is unambiguous about this. Kurukshetra is holy, Saraswati is holier, all the tirthas together are holier still, but Prithudaka is the supreme destination. There is absolutely no tirtha superior to it. Casting off your body here literally makes you an immortal. It is the undisputed apex of the ancient spiritual map. Which brings us to our final thought for today. We've seen how windblown dust, specific riverbanks, and localized eclipses were viewed as literal mechanical levers for eternal salvation. If an entire universe of salvation could be mapped so precisely to a single, physical ancient landscape, what does it tell us about how our ancestors viewed the very ground they walked on? They definitely didn't just see dead dirt and water. They saw a living, breathing interface with the divine where every single step had infinite cosmic weight. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope it leaves you eager to uncover more of the incredible maps hidden within our ancient texts.